Today's episode of the KC Sports Authority podcast is part one of our two-part Chiefs season recap. In part one, Alex Fazy joins me to break down the Chiefs' 14-3 season that secured them the coveted number one seed heading into the playoffs. We dive into the stats and performances on both sides of the ball and share our takeaways from the season that was. I'm Keegan Russell. You can find the KC Sports Authority podcast on both YouTube and Spotify. You can also find us on Twitter at KCSA Pod and on Facebook. Feel free to share your best Chiefs takes with us, or any sports takes you may have, and suggest any show content you'd like us to discuss on future episodes.
All right, the NFL season has wrapped up. Playoff matchups are set, and the Chiefs officially took over the one seed by dominating the Raiders 31-13 in their season finale. And with me today to break all that down is my good friend Alex Fazy. Alex, what's good, man? Thanks for joining me today.
Oh yeah, no problem, man. Doing pretty good. Excited. Excited for that one seed. I think we definitely could use that week break. And this is going to be an interesting playoff this year. We got a lot of good teams.
Absolutely. I think it's only fair before we get into Chiefs talk just to kind of quickly shout out to Damar Hamlin and his family. Still recovering at the hospital, but thankfully he is up, moving around a little bit more. He's been able to talk with his family, talk with his teammates. So that's exciting. You know, everyone in the sports community and the non-sports community has been praying for him all week and his family, and those prayers have been answered, and he's up and moving around. Just really excited to see that. He's still got a long road ahead of him to get back to some normalcy in life. But that was a crazy moment in sports. I don't know if you've seen anything like that in another sport before, but man, what were you thinking when that went down Monday night?
Man, I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. At first, I just thought, regular injury, and I think that's kind of everybody's initial thoughts. And then, I mean, just the minutes of CPR and everything going on with the ambulance and whatnot. It was just it was something crazy to see. I really thought he was. I really didn't think he was with us anymore at one point in time. I mean, it's absolutely remarkable that he doesn't. I mean, at least from what we've heard, doesn't have severe brain damage or no recollection of anything. It's pretty insane.
Yeah, definitely one of the scariest moments in sports in recent history, if not, all time. But the medical team was very quick to get to him. That hit, we're not going to really debate the hit itself. It kind of looked like a normal football play, but the second he got up and just dropped back, time just kind of paused for the next 3 hours, it felt like. And that medical team was quick to get down there, resuscitate him back on the field, and then it was just a waiting game for the next 48 hours, just waiting on information. And I said, thankfully, it's been almost a week since then now. He's on pace to what sounds like to make a full recovery. Obviously, we don't know what that means for him in his football career, and we don't even need to get into that. But thankfully, he is up and moving around and should make it back. So, good job, medical team there. Thank you, everyone that's been praying for him, keeping his family in your thoughts, and continue to do so. Unfortunately, though, that game did have major implications on playoff seeding, and we've all kind of heard the news since then, and we'll talk about how that might affect the Chiefs again later. But that game was deemed a no contest. It was probably the game of the year everyone was looking forward to. The Bengals specifically, because this was their chance to take down one of the top teams and show that they're ready to get back to the Super Bowl. But NFL cancels the game. They said they weren't going to make it up, and now they've decided a bunch of different things are going to happen in the playoffs to kind of make up for that. So the Chiefs did end up beating the Raiders, which we'll talk about here in a minute, and so they secured the one seed. But that now means that if the Bills or the Bengals do make an NFC championship this year against the Chiefs, because they have that one less game on their schedule, they'll be forced to play in a neutral site game, which is yet to be determined. There are also a couple implications with the Bengals and Ravens, who just played this weekend and are more than likely going to be matched up again. So we'll get into how that affects the Chiefs here in a little bit. But let's just start, Alex. The Chiefs finished the season off 14-3. They do get the the 1 seed like we talked about, which does ensure them the bye week. Um, just kind of take me through your thoughts on the season overall, some of the major headlines, things you were impressed with, maybe things
Yeah.
you were disappointed with. Just kind of give me your overall take on this season.
Yeah, I think all things considered, I mean, you can never complain about a 14-3 season. I mean, we dropped some games we shouldn't have, and I think that's a typical Chiefs fashion. Every season, I feel like we lose the few games that we definitely should not lose. But I think we played good when it mattered. Really, I mean, with all the controversy surrounding the Tyreek Hill deal at the beginning of the season, with the wide receiver core not really having too much time to gel, and us not knowing really what that was going to consist of, I think we played great. Juju, I think, has been a great addition. I know he hasn't maybe put up big time numbers, but I think he gets those catches when it counts. I've been kind of a little bit shaky with Valdez Scantling. I think I've in a few games I feel like he's dropping passes that are just right in his breadbasket, passes he should be catching. But then again, I mean, it is the first year; they may not have that connection built. But overall, I've been obviously loving that Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes connection. Um, Great to see some good running backs coming out of the gate.
Yeah,
Pacheco
no
has been
joke.
awesome for me, and McKinnon. I mean, geez, what an end of the season for him, having what is it, in the last 6 games, having at least one touchdown. Man, I mean,
Yeah, and he's got 9 receiving touchdowns on the year.
right, and that is just that's all you can really ask for out of a running back. I mean, I would have liked to have, maybe before all that went down, if we were going to get rid of Hilaire at any time, I would say that would have been the time to trade him for some value. I don't know how well that's going to go after the season, but you know what? There was really no telling that was going to happen, and those two running backs were going to be exploding onto the scene like they have. So, yeah, I thought this was a pretty good season all in all.
Yeah, no doubt the Clyde Edwards-Helaire time with Kansas City is probably coming to an end. But let's dive into this offense a little deeper. Obviously, the big question mark coming into the season, as everyone knows, Tyreek Hill was traded away, probably number one, if not just regular top three best offensive weapon in the league, and the Chiefs move on from him. So everyone nationally was concerned that the Chiefs were going to struggle. And of course, if you've been paying attention to anything, the Chiefs were picked second to last or last by almost every major sports anchor to finish second to last or last in the AFC West, because they anticipated the offense to significantly drop off without Hill. And as we saw, that was not the case. In fact, and you can maybe say it's because of the extra 17th game now, but Mahomes had one of his best seasons yet. He finished with 5,250 yards. He actually surpassed Drew Brees' record of total yards by an offensive player, in this case, a quarterback. In 2011, Brees finished the year with 5,562 yards total, and Mahomes finished with 5,570. Maybe he doesn't get that in a 16-game season, but, still quite the impressive year, almost as close to his first season as a full-time starter, over 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. But Mahomes does finish the season with 5,200 yards, 41 touchdowns. His interceptions were a little higher with 12, but a couple of those were just 2 or 3 games, getting the majority of them. But quite impressive seasons from him. So let's just start there. What did you see from Mahomes this year, and how is he able to still replicate at such a high level when maybe from the bigger picture, we'd say this was sometimes a struggle for him throughout this year?
Right. One thing about Patrick Mahomes, every year I'm just amazed by the way that he kind of changes his game to what the defense has given him. I think that having Andy Reid as his coach has got to be just a big help in doing so. I mean, Andy Reid famously grows quarterbacks, but it seems like when the defense is giving him nothing long, he's making short passes, making little runs, making things happen. And now this season, we're seeing that a few more long passes were available this year. Maybe not as much as we used to see back in the big days of just 70-yard bombs every game, but getting some good deep passes in, as well as making smart plays. Like you said, some of those interceptions just coming in bunches during games. You can't always credit all the interceptions on the quarterback's fault. We had a lot of bobbles, as we always do, struggling with keeping hold of the ball. But other than that, I really think this has been quite an impressive season for Mahomes. He's my MVP candidate. I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but I don't see anybody having a better season than what he's had this year.
Yeah, he should finish as the MVP. The only thing that I think could have prevented that is if that Bengals Bills game did go through completely, and one of those two guys just had a massive, massive game. But Mahomes should finish the year as the MVP, rightfully so. I think my only thing with him this year that I thought was unusual is, well, one, he it seemed like he was pressing quite a bit throughout the season, forcing things to Kelsey. Some of that may be the lack of Tyreek Hill as another safety net guy that he knows he can get to. So I was a little concerned there. There were a lot of footwork issues throughout the season, but he's owned up to those in multiple press conferences, saying, I'm pressing too much, I'm pushing too hard. Got to trust the guys to get open. And I think that chemistry definitely developed throughout the year. And like you were saying earlier, though, that chemistry with Kelsey is still there, even though Kelsey's getting older. But man, he had another incredible year too. I was pulling up his stats. This is his seventh straight season of 1,000 yards or more, which of course is an NFL record. He also surpassed the 10,000 yard mark as a tight end. Only 5,000 away from Tony Gonzalez now, so maybe if he can do this another 5 years, he'll catch him.
He's
But
got
Kelsey
that.
had an incredible season, snagged another 110 passes, which catches, which for him was a career high this year as well. Just an overall incredible season. His high, this was really his best season yet.
Yeah.
His second most yards, but he had 12 touchdowns, which tops the list for him. What is it about that connection that even almost 10 years in now, he's still seeming to continue to grow and grow with Mahomes,
Right.
and they're just continuing to produce better numbers. What are you seeing with that connection that is making it keep going?
I love when you talk about press conferences with Andy Reid. I love when they talk about, oh yeah, we just go in the back and create our own plays. We just do goofy things like we saw in the Raiders game. I mean, never seen a
Yeah,
play.
talk about a crazy play. I mean, that
Yeah,
Rose Bowl one they did a couple years ago was fancy, but the snow
right,
globe one, it's unfortunate there was a penalty called in there and they had to redo it, but
right.
that was an interesting play.
Yeah. But you just know that that was something that they cooked up on the back end, and then they're like, "Hey, Andy, can we run this in a game?" And it just so happened to
Yeah.
work out there. And I think things like that, giving those guys to have the freedom to kind of grow that connection, um, has really helped. Not to mention, I mean, Travis Kelsey's as fierce a competitor as you're going to find. I mean, he is literally putting up wide receiver numbers at the
Yeah.
tight end position. The
And
guy,
he's doing it for 7 straight years.
right? I mean, and he doesn't quit. I love his tenacity. When he gets that ball, those yards after catch for him. I mean, he is fighting for every yard, every
Mhm.
play. And the purist in me, and for NFL, purist is loving the fact that you got a guy who stayed with the same team for the entirety of his career. I mean, so far, I'm hoping that we obviously keep him through the end. But you got to imagine that when you have stuck with the same franchise, with the coaching staff being pretty much the same through at least the back, what is that, 3/4 of his career,
Mhm.
and just having those people around you has got to be such a help for growing as a player throughout this league.
Yeah, those two, they're just incredible. They're always on the same page. They know what they're thinking. There were a few times this year where they had some miscues, and I think that
Right.
was Mahomes pressing, but just incredible what those two can do. And it doesn't look like Kelsey's slowing down anytime soon. Um, Rest of this offense though also had a pretty good season. I think we found a diamond in the rough in Isaiah Pacheco, the seventh round running back. Brett Veach found a absolute stud. if he had gotten a little bit more playing time earlier in the season, he probably would have surpassed 1,000 yards for the year. He
Yeah,
finishes with 170 carries, 830 rushing yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. But he averaged almost 5 yards a clip, which was quite impressive. An aggressive downhill runner that when
yeah,
the ball's in his hands, he's going full steam ahead, and he's taking as many guys with him. How
yeah.
impressed were you with the rookie?
Man, I mean, he just runs so angry, it seems. I mean, I've been saying, I know they ended up doing a mic'd up on him, but I think they took out a ton of it. But I just thought, they're going to do a mic'd up on this guy, and all they're going to hear is just like, ooh, ooh, like him just freaking running as hard as he can. I love when he gets tackled and he gets back up and keeps running. You just know that guy's out there to freaking play. And I've been more than impressed, especially with him coming in, like you said, the seventh round. I mean, he has been an absolute beast out there.
Yeah, and thankfully he got that playing time early because, as per usual, Clyde Edwards-Helaire went down with an injury and
Right.
ended up on the IR and doesn't look like he'll be. I mean, he can't be activated now for the playoffs, so his time's basically done this season. But Pacheco had quite the impressive year, and now he'll have a full off season to kind of learn his pass protection a little bit better and get more involved in the offense, and should
Mhm.
be 1,000-yard rusher next year. But how about Jerick McKinnon? We talked about, you mentioned at the beginning of the episode how incredible he's been this year. This guy who, he is defying father time for running backs. He's a 30-year-old running back who seems to be in the prime, hasn't had any injury concerns this year for the most part.
Yeah.
The guy finishes with almost 300 rushing yards, and about 500 receiving yards. So again, close to 1,000 yards from scrimmage right there, which is just incredible considering how the Chiefs use him and what he's meant to this team. But overall, finishes the year with 9 receiving touchdowns, basically all in the last 6 games, and then a couple more another rushing touchdown there. So 10 touchdowns total for the season. Had more touchdowns than the aforementioned Tyreek Hill that we lost. But what do you think McKinnon means to this team, not just this season, but for the playoffs? And why has he been so successful in this scheme?
Yeah. I mean, I think, the number one thing about him is his red zone threat. I feel like every time we get in the red zone, especially when we're within 5 yards, it's like, all right, if Kelsey's not getting it, it's definitely going to Jarek, and he's usually coming off that bubble or something like that and getting a quick pass and making it work. And he has a great ability to find an open lane, get in that open lane, so Patrick can give him that pass. So yeah, like I said, on the passing front, I think he is a super dangerous weapon. Obviously, Pacheco is going to be kind of our guy when we're trying to run that thing up the gut. Obviously, Ronald Jones, I guess, got a couple touches in this last game here. I was hoping he would be kind of a big back in case we needed,
Yeah.
almost like a fullback, really. So that's a possibility. But I think Pacheco's our man when running it up the gut. But on an outside run, or like I said, in the red zone, Jarek is he's the guy. And I mean, shoot, if you didn't follow San Francisco too much, you would have no idea that he has been in the league as long as he had. I mean, most people would probably think, "Oh, this is like his second, third year in the league," and he's a veteran, and he's playing like you said, like he is literally in the prime of his career, and I couldn't be happier for him. I mean, I know he's struggled with injuries quite a bit, especially over there in San Francisco, but seems like he's kind of righted that ship. Hopefully for years to come, and he's going to be a great addition for this team.
Yeah, he's one I've been tracking him since his days with the Vikings early on, and I've always just liked his play style, the way he runs the ball. It seems like anytime the Chiefs need a big third down play or, a big time block on a defensive end, he was that guy coming up making that play. And that's going to be huge going into the playoffs, especially with him being fresh. Looking at the rest of the receiver core though, Juju, like you talked about, had a big year. 101 targets, 78 receptions, just fell short of 1,000 yards. Had he played all 16 games or all 17 games, I think he would have been fine. He did have that one game he missed. And of course, this last game, we spread the ball out so much against the Raiders that he just
Right.
didn't get a lot. Only 3 touchdowns, which is kind of disappointing, but I think most of that is because Kelsey and McKinnon had 21 of them between the two.
Yeah.
But I think as the season went on, you mentioned this earlier, he became a very vital part of the offense. He's that guy over the middle who's going to be physical. He's going to get out there in the run game and block. He's going to be the guy to put his body on the line to go get a first down on third down and
Yes.
eat up the middle of the field while Kelsey's running around. So I was quite impressed with him. I hope we do sign him to an extension this offseason and kind of make him part of our offense moving forward.
Yeah.
But I think Juju in a Kansas City jersey, it's been a long time coming. It's been projected for several years now, and it finally paid off having him in that lineup. And I
Right.
think that's now that he's, again, healthy, as long as he stays healthy, he's going to be a vital part to this offense. Mid-season, though, the Chiefs did make a trade for the wide receiver Kadarius Toney from the Giants. Didn't really pan out well for the Giants. A lot of off the field issues, character issues there. So a lot of people were surprised the Chiefs went out of their way for him. But when the guy is healthy and he's not having issues with the coaching staff, the guy is
Mhm.
a freak of an athlete.
Oh my
You get
gosh.
him in open space, he might be the closest thing we'll ever see to Tyreek Hill again as far as just being able to make guys miss. No one is as fast as Tyreek Hill is, but Tony in open space, we saw several times this year where that end around sweep or, just dump the ball off to him. He can make plenty of guys miss.
Yeah.
Didn't get a whole lot from him, because he also got hurt and missed a couple games, but moving forward, he's going to be crucial to this offense. Going into next year, having him and Juju hopefully back, and then maybe McCole Hardman or someone else. A lot of
Right.
dynamic weapons on this team, and Mahomes can really just dump the ball to just about anybody, and they're going to make plays.
Mhm.
Valdez Scaling, you mentioned, we both kind of talked earlier before the season, having high hopes for him. Didn't quite pan out. He did finish close to 700 yards, which is kind of my expectation for him, and grabbed 42 receptions. Has some issues dropping the ball. Couldn't come up with the great connection with Mahomes. I think there's just some chemistry things there that they'll clean up in the offseason. But I'm not too worried there. And then McCole Hardman, of course, missed most of the year with that hamstring injury, which is kind of a bummer. And so we've never really seen this offense fully capable of what they can be because they haven't all been healthy at the same time. And hopefully going here into the playoffs, we'll have them all together. But Alex, when that offense is in full swing and you've got Tony on the outside, Juju and McCole Hardman in there with Travis Kelsey and what McKinnon and Pacheco are doing, what do you think the ceiling is for this group as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, such a dual threat offense. I mean, you said it. Valdez Scantling, I've been kind of mad on him for this season, but I think he really can have that potential. I mean, I think when we got him from Green Bay, they basically called him a one route guy. He's going on a go route and he's fast. So, if he can right that ship and kind of get on the same page as Mahomes and work to actually get that timing correct, I think he could be a great deep threat for us. And like you said, Juju, man, did he really put his body on the line this season? I saw him take some
He took a
shots.
bunch of big hits.
He took some shots
And
this
gave
year.
some out too. He
Yeah,
likes to
true.
hit back.
Yeah, I would like to see him not take as many shots because his poor body's got to be killing after the season. But I mean, yeah, he's the type of guy who's going to run that quick in, or quick slant and get us that first down when we need it. I mean, the Chiefs what were we, like 78% on third down this season?
One of the best in the NFL on third down completion.
Incredible third down percentage, and you got to attribute that to those guys, quick, fast guys who are making a play count. I really do think Kadarius Toney could be a really good slot receiver for us. And it seems weird coming from the Tyreek Hill era that we don't have necessarily an all-star receiver, but I think a mix of all these pretty well-rounded receivers, or at least receivers who kind of fill in each other's gaps, is really going to be a great addition for our team moving forward, especially now that we have a whole year under our belts with these guys. And Another good thing about them not being superstars is those superstars come with super high contracts. And
Yeah.
I mean, not that these guys are going to be, cheap per se, but they're definitely not going to be wanting Tyreek Hill money. Or they're definitely know they can't get Tyreek Hill money, I should say. I guess everybody probably wants that money. But
Juju's probably got the best case. He'll probably command a decent contract in the offseason. A lot of people have him getting something similar to what Christian Kirk got this year, close to that 18 to 20 million. I don't know if the Chiefs go that direction if he's going to get that on the open market, but I could see them bringing him back for, a 2-year, $28 million contract, maybe 13, 14, 15 million a
yeah,
year, somewhere there with some incentives. But I think going into the playoffs, now that most all the offense is healthy, weapon wise outside of Clyde, what I'm looking forward to seeing is how do defenses prepare for us? Because now, like you said, even though we don't have that true superstar receiver, we've got guys that fill almost every type of role. You've got your burners, even MVS at his size at 6'4", he can burn you down the field. And if him and Mahomes can connect and there's not a deep safety, he's going to find himself open for a 50-yard bomb. Then you've
yeah,
got Hardman and Tony with that speed off the edge. They could take the bubble screen pass, break away downfield real quick. They could get open in the slot, cut across the middle, and just take off. That jet sweep end around. Both of them can take off there. And then of course you got Juju running up and down the field, setting blocks, being physical, kind of like that Sammy Watkins target that we had before, where a little bit bigger
right.
body. Aggressive play style. He's going to go after it. He's going to go catch the ball. And then, of course, Travis Kelce, you can't leave him open whatsoever. You have to be conscious of him at all times. And now with McKinnon playing as well as he is, I'm just wondering as a defense, who do you stop?
Yeah.
If you
And
put two safeties back, then Kelsey and Juju are going to eat you up over the middle, or they're going to dump it off to Tony and McCole and let them, use their breakaway speed and moves to get past you.
yeah,
And if
and
you bring the safeties up, then someone's going to get burned down the field. So that's what I'm looking forward to seeing is how teams decide to match up with them. They're still, all those guys haven't played together that much yet, so it might take a couple series or a game or two to get all on the same page. But I think that's what's exciting is defenses have to be thinking constantly, who are we going to let beat us today? Because the Chiefs have options just about everywhere on the
right.
field.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and we're not even talking about guys coming off the bench. I mean, Noah Gray has been putting up solid numbers, and
Mm,
with big guys like that, and Watson. I mean, got bigger guys that are able to play more physical. We're going to be able to make a first down happen when we need it to happen. Those bigger guys, and when we are playing physical and when we're getting those close inner range passes, that's when MVS is going down that field and we're hitting that bomb.
yeah. Incredible year for the offense, no doubt, and they still have a lot left to play for coming in the playoffs. Let's switch gears to the defensive side for a few minutes. Kind of a struggle early on. I think that's kind of typical of a Spags defense, especially with a lot of young new faces on it.
Mm-hmm.
Struggled the first half of the season, giving up a lot of yards. Did pretty well in the red zone and third down, but it seemed like there were plenty of times where you're scratching your head wondering why are these guys where they are. Now, I will credit Spags and that defense. Like I said, they had two rookies actually three rookies at corner,
Yeah.
which you really don't see that often in the NFL. And you're asking them to go up against, Stephon Diggs, Cortland Sutton, all these big time receivers with very little experience as NFL corners. And for the most part, they held their own. But the defense definitely struggled early and often. But coming down the stretch here, they're looking pretty solid. Guys are
Yes.
healthy again. Chris Jones is having an all-pro year. Just had his career high with 15 and a half sacks. Our rookie George Karlaftis came on very hot in the end of the year.
Yep.
I think it was 6 sacks in a row, six straight games with a sack to finish off the year.
Yep.
Even Frank Clark, his numbers don't blow you away, but Frank Clark has looked healthy this year. He's looked
Yep.
quick off the line. I've been watching just his footwork and his explosiveness off the line. Even when he's not getting the quarterback, he's beaten most of his guys to the spot they need to, causing the quarterback to move around. So as the year progressed, defense definitely got way more impressive. Of course, Nick Bolton's been the guy in the middle locking it down. What are your thoughts on this defense throughout the year? What did you see them improve the most in, and where do you think that leaves us positioning as wise going into the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I definitely think the secondary would be our weakest link. Having three rookies is never going to be perfect. And like you said, you're putting them up against guys like Jamar Chase and guys like Stephon Diggs. And unfortunately, a lot of times, teams are isolating and getting them into a one-on-one situation. That's never going to be good for us. But then again, we can annul those situations by getting pressure on the quarterback. And towards the end of the season, we saw a little more pressure to the quarterback on a regular basis. Like you said, Chris Jones is killing it with sacks, but just getting the quarterback out of the pocket, making him make a decision has been really helpful for us. I love Willie Gay. I think he's a killer. I've been liking the way he can cover and also get to the quarterback. Obviously, Willie Snead has been killing it for us. Him coming off the edge on those blitzes is money. And I'm willing to put him up with any receiver, and I know he is at least going to make it a play. But yeah, I think going forward into the playoffs, the biggest thing that we need to focus on is getting pressure on the quarterback and trying to get that quarterback uncomfortable, especially knowing that chances are we're going to have to play either the Bills or the Bengals, or, presumably could be both.
That Chiefs pass rush has been much more impressive this year. They finished top 5 in the league in sacks, had a pretty successful pass rush rate. I think what's also impressive too is even when they weren't getting to the quarterback, they were batting a ton of balls down at the line of scrimmage. So yeah, again, defense struggled early on. They're playing really well right now, and they've got hopefully their best ball ahead of them as we really pick things up and go against the top competition. So need to see a little bit more out of them, but have been pleased with what we have seen so far.
That was part 1 of our Chiefs season recap. Make sure you come back for part 2 in our next episode, where Alex and I finish off the recap by handing out some individual season awards and then dive into playoff talk and discuss what the Chiefs need to do to find themselves hoisting another Lombardi trophy. Stay tuned.